Mexican corridos star Junior H faces death threats from one of the world's most violent cartels. September 12, 2025. In the dangerous border city of Tijuana, a deadly message has been delivered that could silence one of Mexico's biggest musical stars forever. The target, 24-year-old Antonio Herrera Perez, better known as Junior H, a Mexican-American artist whose corridos tumbados have captivated millions across the globe. On Tuesday morning, authorities discovered an ominous banner in the Buena Vista neighborhood, warning the singer not to perform at the Explanada del Estadio Caliente on November 8th. That concert was set to kick off the Mexican leg of Junior H's AD Boys Live and Broken Tour. The message was signed by the Jalisco Nueva Generación Cartel, known as CJNG, one of Mexico's most ruthless criminal organizations. The banner's message left no room for interpretation. Written in aggressive Spanish, it read, "Junior H, refrain from appearing on November 8th, or we'll destroy you. Even if you don't sing narco-corridos, that won't save you. We don't forgive." This threat emerges from the same violence that has plagued Mexico for decades. The drug wars that began in the 1980s created a cocaine empire built on bloodshed, where politicians and police were either bought or killed. Power struggles and crumbling alliances led to escalating violence that forever changed Mexico's landscape. For years, CJNG has been a nightmare responsible for thousands of murders and countless acts of terror across Mexico. But this morning, they had set their sights on a 24-year-old musician whose only crime was singing songs that reflected the harsh realities of life in cartel-controlled territories.
Today's Afternoon Spotlight. Reuters is pulling back the curtain on a fight that most Americans didn't even know was happening, a covert war just across the U.S. southern border. Their investigation reveals that the CIA has been quietly training and directing elite Mexican units tasked with hunting down the country's most dangerous drug lords. And what Reuters uncovered is how the agency brought its war on terror toolkit into Mexico's drug war. In CIA speak, it's called Find, Fix, Finish. In plain English, it means find the target, lock them down so they can't escape, and then move in to capture or terminate. It's the same strategy that the agency used against terrorists after 9/11, and now it's being turned on Mexico's cartels. Let's start in January of 2023. Helicopter gunships roared over rural Sinaloa as Mexican soldiers closed in on Ovidio Guzman Lopez. He's the son of drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. The Mexican army carried out the raid, but the CIA was behind the curtain. The agency had built a detailed targeting package, surveillance intercepts, insider tips, intel from a cartel associate who had flipped. The unit, also, that ultimately stormed Ovidio's hideout wasn't just any Mexican force. It was a group that was trained, equipped, and vetted by the CIA, known as GAIN, in English, the Drug Trafficking Information Analysis Group. The operation was a major success. Ovidio was captured, extradited to the U.S., and pled guilty.
How did a young artist from Guanajuato become a target of one of Mexico's deadliest organizations? How do Mexican authorities protect performers when cartels declare war on music itself? I will show you the truth right now. September 9th, 2025. The empty streets of Tijuana's Buena Vista neighborhood concealed a message of terror about to shock the Mexican music world. Near the Universidad Autónoma de Baja California, a narcomanta, a type of banner used by criminal groups to communicate threats, hung ominously from a pedestrian bridge. Outwardly, it appeared to be another piece of cartel propaganda, but inside its threatening words lay a direct challenge to one of Mexico's most popular young artists. Junior H, born Antonio Herrera Perez, had risen from the streets of Guanajuato to become a global sensation, known for hits like Wo Loro, El Hijo Mayor, and Lady Gaga featuring Peso Pluma. For years, Junior H has been more than just a musician. He has been a voice for a generation living under the shadow of cartel violence, his corridos tumbados blending traditional Mexican ballads with hip-hop and trap music. Intelligence reports show that corridos tumbados have become a worldwide phenomenon, with streaming of Mexican music growing 400% on Spotify over the past 5 years. But success in this genre comes with deadly CE consequences. The value of Junior H's influence was staggering. With millions of followers across social media platforms and sold-out concerts at venues like BMO Stadium in Los Angeles, He represented more than entertainment. He was a cultural force, a symbol of resistance and authenticity in a world where cartels seek to control every aspect of society. As news of the threat spread, it represented more than an attack on one artist. It was a declaration of war against artistic freedom, a message that even global superstars were not beyond the reach of Mexico's most violent criminal organizations. And on this day, the Baja California Prosecutor's Office had chosen to make its stand. This was not just another threat against a musician. It was an attack on the soul of Mexican culture, a warning that even international stars who bring pride to their homeland could be silenced by fear. Leaving it unchecked would have been surrendering Mexico's artistic heritage to the cartels. Cartels like CJNG thrive on intimidation and control. Do you believe government protection can truly keep artists safe from these threats? Leave your answer in the comments. By morning on September 9th, 2025, Mexican authorities had already begun positioning their response to this unprecedented threat. While the narco-manta was discovered in the early morning hours, law enforcement agencies prepared an investigation as thorough as it was urgent. The mission was complex in theory, but critical in execution. Protect one of Mexico's most beloved artists without bowing to cartel intimidation. The opening move came from the Baja California Prosecutor's Office. A spokesperson confirmed to Billboard that authorities were treating the threat with utmost seriousness, opening a formal criminal investigation despite Junior H's team declining to file an official complaint. The banner was immediately removed and processed as evidence. Meanwhile, security protocols activated across multiple jurisdictions. The state prosecutor's office announced that authorities will provide full security if Junior H decides to proceed with his scheduled November 8th performance. This protection would involve coordination between local police, state authorities, and potentially federal security forces. The numbers alone were telling. Junior H's upcoming tour includes stops in Atlanta, Austin, Houston, Phoenix, and Los Angeles, representing millions of dollars in revenue and employing hundreds of crew members. The economic impact of canceling shows extends far beyond the artist himself, affecting venues, local businesses, and thousands of fans who had purchased tickets. Yet the tactical challenge was overwhelming. CJNG operates with military-style organization across multiple Mexican states, with an estimated 5,000 active members and access to high-powered weapons. Their reach extends from Jalisco to Tijuana, making them one of the most formidable criminal organizations in the Western Hemisphere. The sophisticated nature of these cartels has evolved beyond traditional enforcement. Intelligence agencies have revealed how modern cartels employ tactics once reserved for international terrorism, using surveillance technology and insider intelligence to build targeting packages against their enemies. This transformation represents a new chapter in Mexico's drug war, where criminal organizations operate with the precision of military units. For the investigators working the case, it was just another Tuesday morning in Tijuana. They had no idea that this single threat would illuminate the broader war being waged against Mexican artists, a conflict where music itself had become a battlefield. In reality, the fight for artistic freedom in Mexico had reached a critical turning point. These numbers are truly staggering, right? Share this video so more people can see how fierce the battle for artistic freedom really is. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. At exactly morning on September 9th, 2025, the investigation intensified. From the prosecutor's office in Tijuana, teams of investigators began analyzing the threat like a military operation. Each word of the narco-manta was examined for clues about its origin, while forensic experts processed the banner for fingerprints and DNA evidence. The first breakthrough came within hours. Investigators confirmed that the threatening language matched previous CJNG communications, suggesting the banner was authentic rather than a hoax. The specific mention of Junior H's November 8th concert date indicated detailed knowledge of his tour schedule, pointing to sophisticated intelligence gathering by the criminal organization. Within the first day, authorities had identified multiple angles of attack. Digital forensics teams analyzed social media posts and online chatter related to the threat, while intelligence units cross-referenced known CJNG operatives in the Tijuana area. The investigation revealed that this was not an isolated incident, but part of a broader pattern of cartel intimidation against Mexican artists. By the second day, the scope of the threat became clear. CJNG had previously targeted other major artists, including Peso Pluma, who was forced to cancel 6 concerts in Mexico in 2023 after receiving similar threats. Earlier in 2024, Grupo Firme canceled a performance in Sinaloa after a narco-manta appeared along with a severed head. The casualty count from cartel violence against musicians was devastating. More than a dozen Mexican musicians were murdered between 2006 and 2008, with many more receiving threats that forced them to cancel performances or flee the country. Artists like Valentin Elizalde, who was machine-gunned in his car after a concert in Reynosa, became symbols of the deadly price of performing corridos. Investigators discovered that the threat against Junior H was particularly significant because he had recently announced he would not sing corridos tumbados on his current tour, apparently attempting to distance himself from the controversial genre. Yet the CJNG banner specifically stated that even if you don't sing narco-corridos, that won't save you, indicating that the cartel's grievances extended beyond specific songs. By the 48-hour mark, authorities had established a comprehensive security assessment. The threat was deemed credible and serious enough to warrant maximum protection protocols. For law enforcement, the message was clear. Mexico's most popular artists were under siege, and the government's response would determine whether culture could survive cartel intimidation. What do you think will happen next as authorities prepare to protect Junior H while he continues his tour? Let's find out in the next part. As the investigation continued on September 10, 2025, the broader implications of the threat began to emerge. From government offices in Mexico City to concert venues across North America, the attack on Junior H represented a watershed moment in the ongoing war between cartels and artistic expression.
During an interview within the documentary, Sheen recounts how his addiction escalated to such an extreme level that his own supplier, who he claims was connected to a Mexican cartel, cut him off. According to Sheen, he blew through an enormous amount of cocaine in a period of just 3 weeks. This rapid and excessive consumption led the cartel to believe he wasn't using the drugs himself, but was instead reselling them. In a moment of high drama, the documentary reveals that the cartel, suspicious of Sheen's motives, cut off his supply, which effectively forced him into a state of uncomfortable sobriety. This story is just
Armed with enhanced security protocols, authorities began implementing protection measures that extended far beyond a single concert. Intelligence reports revealed that CJNG's threat was part of a coordinated campaign to control Mexican music, with the cartel seeking to dictate which artists could perform and what songs they could sing. The battle raged across multiple fronts. In Mexico, 10 states have now implemented bans on narco-corridos in public spaces, while artists face the constant threat of violence for performing songs that cartels deem offensive. In one confrontation near the U.S. border, radio stations broadcast prohibited corridos from Texas into Mexico, creating a dangerous cat-and-mouse game with criminal organizations. The most critical development was the international response. The U.S. State Department had previously revoked visas for Mexican artists deemed to be promoting cartel imagery, while Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum announced government initiatives to promote corridos about love, falling out of love, and peace rather than violence. By now, the scope of cartel control over Mexican music had become undeniable. Artists were forced to hire private security, travel in armored vehicles, and carefully screen their lyrics to avoid offending powerful criminal organizations. Some performers, like Luis R. Conriquez, faced violent audience reactions when they refused to sing corridos at government-ordered events. One security assessment revealed the deadly mathematics of the conflict. Since 2006, more than 431,000 people have died in Mexico's drug war, while threats against musicians have surged alongside the violence. Artists who once celebrated the folklore of their homeland now live in constant fear of assassination. The casualty balance was becoming increasingly one-sided. Within the past year alone, multiple high-profile artists had received death threats, been forced to cancel concerts, or fled Mexico entirely. Against them, the cartels maintained an iron grip on cultural expression, using fear and violence to silence voices that challenged their authority. By early afternoon, the reality was undeniable. Junior H's threat was not an isolated incident, but part of a systematic campaign to terrorize Mexican artists into submission. The question was no longer whether cartels could intimidate individual performers, but whether Mexican culture itself could survive this unprecedented assault. Even as authorities work to protect artists, the shadow of cartel violence continues to spread. The extremes of cartel influence have reached shocking levels, with even Hollywood celebrities becoming entangled in their web. Some have consumed such massive quantities of drugs that Mexican cartels themselves became suspicious, cutting off supplies when they believed the amounts were impossible for personal use. By September 11, 2025, the threat against Junior H had illuminated a crisis that extends far beyond one artist or one concert. In less than 72 hours, Mexican authorities had documented a pattern of systematic intimidation that threatens to silence an entire generation of musicians. The results were staggering. Multiple major artists, including Peso Pluma, Natanael Cano, and Grupo Firme, had been forced to cancel performances, flee their homeland, or dramatically alter their artistic expression to avoid cartel retaliation. The economic impact reached into hundreds of millions of dollars in lost revenue, while the cultural cost was immeasurable. The seizure of artistic freedom was even more shocking. Across Mexico, cartels had effectively established themselves as arbiters of cultural expression, determining which songs could be performed, which artists could travel safely, and what messages could reach the public. This represented more than censorship, it was cultural terrorism on an unprecedented scale. With this pattern of threats, cartels had not only attacked individual artists, but also crippled the ability of Mexican culture to express its own reality. For the cartels, it was a strategy of total control. For Mexico, it represented an existential threat to cultural identity. The Baja California Prosecutor's Office's investigation into Junior H's case became a symbol of resistance against this cultural siege. Their promise to provide full security for his November 8th concert represented more than protection for one artist. It was a declaration that Mexico would not surrender its artistic heritage to criminal organizations. The investigation closed over the wreckage of artistic freedom in Mexico. What remained was a stark choice. Would the government stand firm against cartel intimidation, or would fear silence the voices that define Mexican culture? And now I turn the question to you. Do you believe government protection can truly safeguard artists from cartel threats, or will fear ultimately triumph over artistic expression? Share your thoughts below. If you value in-depth analysis like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next story of culture under siege.